I'm so grateful and quite excited that we have a very, very special guest. And as Eric had mentioned, our Gratitude Soiree is one of the He's on International Foundation's initiative. And the second one is the Scholarship and Mentorship Program for Single Mothers. And I'm so excited to announce that last week we awarded 15 scholarship recipients, and I noticed that some of our scholarship recipients are here joining us, as well as our dedicated and heart-centered mentors. So I welcome all of you. It truly is a privilege to have you here. Just to give you an idea of what this program is for this evening, we'll introduce our special guest speaker, and we'll have an open question and answers where you could ask John questions that you may have. So if you can, please use our chat box, and then also use your virtual hand during the open session. And I'm so excited just to also just a little bit of a reminder that when we open our circle, this is a safe zone. It's a sacred zone where we honor each other. And so I would hope that we are all committed to take in, filter, and dissolve any judgment so that we can open comfortably and we can be open and vulnerable. So I appreciate all of you. So without further ado, I would love to introduce our guest speaker tonight. John Gray is the author of the New York Times #1 best-selling relationship book, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. He will share his insightful tips on how to express ourselves authentically and help improve relationship to live a happier life. I met John almost a year ago, last summer, at a friend's house, and I became a fan. He is a heart-centered and impactful leader, and he's so generous and he's so kind, and we are very, very fortunate to have him here tonight. John, thank you so much, and we welcome you to our Gratitude Soiree.
Well, I'm really happy to be here. It's always a pleasure to talk about gratitude and love. It's one of my most enjoyable topics, and I think what we can talk about tonight is to feel and to express gratitude for men and women. If we understand the value we get from each other, we naturally feel more grateful. And I think back to a time in my life when this is 40 years ago, but I was shifting from being a celibate monk for 9 years, coming out into the world to have a career. So I was broke and I was living homeless on the beach. And it was scary. And here I was sort of bathed in sort of a God consciousness of very elated, ecstatic meditation. And then now I'm thrust into the world, very naively assuming, well, God will provide, because that was my experience being a monk, because everything's provided for you. So here I am on the beach and thinking, well, it will show up. And it did show up. It just wasn't so immediate. So I had flown out to LA thinking somebody was going to meet me. Nobody met me. I ended up being on the beach, and it wasn't so terrible during the day because it wasn't freezing cold, which is why there's so much homelessness there. It's the best place to be homeless is LA and San Francisco area. LA better, but it was scary. A lot of mentally ill people were there, and alcoholics were there, and drug addicts, and that was scary. But on cold nights, we'd all stay in a hotel room. They were all getting some payments. I had nothing. But anyway, I prayed, and at a certain point, I met up with one of my friends from many years ago at that time, and he noticed that I was broke, and I didn't tell him I was broke, but he said, "John, in case you need a little extra money, here's $50. Now, $50 doesn't sound like much right now, but over 40 years ago, $50 was like $500. It could keep me going. And I'm eternally grateful to him. And so I'm telling this story because when we're in touch with what we need, we feel more gratitude. And when we feel gratitude, then we feel more love, we feel more generous, because gratitude is I have. And when you have, you want to share. So it helps to awaken our generosity of spirit inside. And what's missing today for a lot of people is gratitude. And part of it is they're not aware of what they need. So I want to take us back in time, back to, from many people's experience, a better time, which was when I was growing up in the 50s. And my mother and father were very traditional. They had a spiritual path that they were on. And I think a spiritual path is so, so important for people to feel they're not alone. I'll multiply that times 10 for women, because one of the deepest needs of our female side, I'm a man with a female side and a male side, but for women, there's a biological need for well-being, which is the regulation of estrogen and progesterone and testosterone. It's very different from a man's regulation of those hormones. I have them all, but as a man, I need 10 times more, sometimes 20 times more testosterone than a woman. Otherwise, I'll be stressed out. People don't realize that testosterone is the hormone that keeps men from being stressed out. And when testosterone goes down, that's when men are stressed out. Irritability, passivity, procrastination, all those are symptoms in men of low testosterone. And what they need at that time is to feel that they're able within themselves to do something that will generate appreciation and gratitude from the outer world. That's called having meaning in your life. You have meaning when I did something and somebody was grateful. Somebody was like, yay, John did that. And meaning's really important. A major issue for men, certainly it's an issue for women, but not as much. You have a certain genetic structure that knows that you're a mother. You have the potential to be a mother. And so when you have that potential, a whole set of wiring inside that can make a baby, and a whole different set of hormones interacting that can make a baby. So your life has plenty of meaning. That baby's crying. My daughter recently had a baby, so I've got just spent 2 hours holding a 1-week-old baby. So that was an experience. But what that does, a lovely experience. But in a man, what that does is it raises estrogen. That's a nurturing hormone. So I've noticed since the baby came along that I'm sleeping longer. It's definitely very, very relaxing for me, and don't have so much motivation as usual, just because my estrogen levels are going higher. But fortunately, I have very healthy testosterone levels as a man. So translate that. I like to talk about biology because I'm talking about male and female, and there's a little confusion about that today. But there's real biological differences in our genome and our genes of men and women, which gives rise to a template of information that regulates us. And when, as a male, if we don't get the right external support to produce the healthy hormones for our balance, then we're depressed, anxious, irritable, angry, pouting, procrastinating, lack of motivation. And you can sum that up in psychological terms is not feeling meaning, not feeling a sense of purpose and meaning. Because if I went to a job and that job didn't pay me much money, I feel like I don't have much meaning in my life. Why even bother? And it's sad to say that a lot of men feel that today. There's a change has happened, and I'm going to get to that. And then we can be grateful for the possibilities that exist for us. So I'm going to first talk about what's missing that we need more of, and then we'll rejoice in the fact that it's right here in our hearts, right here in God, and right here around us, and so forth. So for males, to feel that I can provide is everything masculine. Now, see, I grew up at a time where I was fortunate. I lived in a safe neighborhood. My dad had a good job. We weren't extravagantly rich. I thought we were the poorest people in the neighborhood. It's just my parents were very frugal. So there are big houses around, there's 20-minute walk. There's a country club with a swimming pool, but our house was the littlest house in the neighborhood. I mean, like literally a third of or quarter of the size of other houses. So I figured we were the poor people. I didn't experience that. And I was fine. My parents were very happy. My mother was very frugal. My dad had a good job, make me point. So he was a good provider. And she was fulfilling her dream of 7 children. So imagine that, 6 boys. She had 6 boys. And so she had tremendous gratitude to my father because that was her dream. And he could provide the financial support for security for the family. So he did his job. See, it's so much easier for a man in those days. I did my job and I came home, and then he's the policeman. At home, my mother, we got out of, didn't obey and cooperate, whatever. I'm going to tell your father, you know, and in those days, fathers could pull out a belt and give you a whack. And we didn't look at that as so horrible. I did write a whole book of why you don't need to spank your kids, but at the time, it certainly worked in our family. But, you know, she needed some kind of police there, and wasn't that necessary, but he would do it occasionally. So he did his job of maintaining discipline in the house when the boys wouldn't listen to mom. He also provided a safe setting. He was also a coach for the boys to help develop our masculinity. So we had one-on coaching, you know, we had basketball, he put up a thing, we played basketball, we did badminton, we did trampoline. He was very engaged in keeping us doing athletic activities and competitive sports. All those things, by the way, produce testosterone. A boy who doesn't have competitive sports doesn't make as much testosterone. We have this twisted idea that competition is not a healthy thing. It is so healthy. I just saw Super Bowl Sunday. It was just so wonderful to see real men up there fighting to achieve a goal. Masculinity is kind of a rare thing today. It's missing. But I was counseling one of my clients, and she's a single woman, and she's fallen in love with this man, and she's telling me how amazing he is. And I said, well, tell me what he did. Now, when I was a younger counselor and a woman in love would say, he's so amazing, I'd always wonder, who is this guy? He's so amazing. He's just a regular guy, but he did guy things. So I said, so what did he do? And she said, oh, he just came to my house. He saw some on the deck. There's these boards that are like rotting or something. He replaced the boards. He got it there with a saw. He nailed them in. He did the thing. I've never felt this. You know, here's a very self-reliant, self-sufficient woman. She's done it all herself. And now she's in the context of a man doing physical labor type activities with a smile on his face, you know, no, like, oh, I have to do this, eager to do that. So this is actually the essence of masculinity, which is, although your experience may be different, everything about a man is seeking to provide something meaningful to others. And the highest experience for men, or one of the highest experiences, when you get mature enough, which I can provide enough so that people give me what I need. Now I have extra and I can overflow that and create a family. So what we're missing today, and I'm conscious we want to talk about gratitude. We're going to get to the gratitude part, but we're missing something in the world. And when it shows up, we can be very grateful for it. Like this woman who's been a solo woman her whole life, and suddenly she's got a can-do guy around her, willing to do work without complaining, you know, without resistance, but happy to do it. This is what pure masculinity is about, is happy to be of service. You know, think about those young men who want to save the world, and our army at times are danger for our country. They're marching and they're out there and they're going through training. And I want to say a little bit more about training of masculinity. These are young men who are rather, you know, selfish, indulgent, playful, having fun, you know, haven't yet got to that place of responsibility. But overnight, you need to train them. Now, I'm not saying this is the only way to train them. I think marriage is the best way to train a man. But the training of a drill sergeant is they sit there and they say mean things. They make fun of you, they put you down, and they purposely try to upset you while you're standing in line giving attention. And the reason they're doing that, and then you roll your eyes at your drill sergeant, or you don't say, yes, sir, in a positive, respectful tone. If you don't have that reaction, he'll say right there, give me 50 push-ups. And if you really give trouble, he'll say, okay, because of you, everybody give me, 20 laps or something, just that you suffer as a result of disrespecting authority. So there's a dance there, which I just want to emphasize. It's called sucking up your emotions, not talking about your feelings. This is part of masculinity, is don't follow your feelings. Now, for femininity, everything's about following your feelings. It's about transforming your feelings. It's about what do I feel inside and how do I feel? Why? Well, I can explain this to you biologically. When you talk about your feelings, estrogen levels go up. Women need 10 to 20 times more estrogen than men. If your estrogen's low and your testosterone is high, estrogen is more the female hormone, testosterone is more the male hormone. Now, why would distinguish it that way? Because men need 10 to 20 times more testosterone than women. Women have testosterone, but nothing like a man's. But if women have low testosterone, it's not necessarily a major cause of stress in her body. The major cause of stress in a woman's body is estrogen depletion or not enough progesterone. Women are very complicated. Every day, their hormonal balance changes. Men are not that way. We're kind of a testosterone's up, testosterone's down. If we're up, we're feeling confident, can do, whatever. Then we run out of testosterone. Then we need some kind of non-estrogen activity to rebuild our testosterone, which is why it became very popular after I wrote the book, Men Are From Mars, Man Cave. Every man has his cave. And he goes to his man cave, and women don't instinctively understand the importance of that for a man, because you don't have as great a need to rebuild testosterone. So if I work my muscles, I need to rest my muscles. Very important for the testosterone to come back up, for the body to rebuild itself. So a guy is stressed, he's stressed at work. The only time a man experiences stress hormones, this is so interesting, is when his female hormones are greater than his male in balance. So it's like if I'm solving a problem, like right now, I'm very relaxed, I'm having a good time, I'm not even producing adrenaline, just dopamine and testosterone. In that situation, my estrogen is not going to rise higher than the balance with my testosterone. If I started to feel nervous or anxious or irritable or combative, you can measure my hormones and my estrogen would be super high and my testosterone would be going low. You see, a high testosterone man is cool, calm, and collected all the time. That's what masculinity is. It's cool, calm, and collected, and it's selfless if you go to pure. Now, no one is just pure masculine, but our pure masculine side is what's often the goal of many spiritual traditions, like when the Buddha taught, empty mind. So many people talk. People today are always like, be mindful. And my message for men is be mindless, okay? You take time to stop thinking. And see, that's something men can do very easily if they're trained. Women can't. Very hard and sometimes not necessary. Harvard did a study of women and their brains and men's, and what they found, they put all this stuff on the brain to measure activity, right? And they had the women sit down at the end of a workday and sit down and measure the brain activity. And what they noticed is for women, when they sat down, their brain activity increased. And they went, oh, so what are you thinking about? What's going on? And the women would say, I'm thinking about all the things I have to do that I don't have time to do and I should be doing now while I'm doing this. See, that's the busy brain of women. Okay, that's what. But when the men sat down on the couch, they noticed the activity went dramatically down in the brain. They didn't say meditate. They just said, just sit there. And they went blank, basically. And you ask the guy, so what's going on? What are you thinking? And the guy would just, I don't know, nothing. And see, this is the recovery state for a man, is to forget problems, forget responsibilities. Just take some time to do something which in the old days, in the 50s, you put it on your resume, a hobby. Every man has a hobby. Even now when the presidents go play golf, people go, why aren't they working? No, they need to play golf in order to forget the problems at work so they can literally rebuild the masculine energy. Once it rebuilds, he can now very gracefully enter into more of his female energy. So if a man is just not exposed to estrogen stimulating activities, nurturing activities. That means giving and supporting without expecting anything in return. Okay, you're not expecting anything. It's just like from your heart. So when a man can rebuild his testosterone and he's not entering into the work world, the competitive world, then he can easily enter into the intimate world for a loving relationship. But love is all estrogen. Okay, so if you look at now a little science for a moment, it's just so interesting. Those of you I can see, is this interesting to you? Would you raise your hands? Let me just see. It's just so it's a whole nother way of looking at life. Okay, it's so you look at the big scale of in America, they test, they have all these records, medical records, and they see that when a man is single for his age group, he has the highest testosterone levels. And when a man is, and in every age group, that's the case. And then once he's in a committed relationship, he's dating the same woman over and over, he'll be the second highest group. And then when he's in a committed relationship, more of a long-term relationship, his testosterone level average will be lower again. And when he's married, it takes another drop on average. Now mine didn't, but it takes a drop. And then once you have children, it takes another drop, just the averages. Now, why would this be? Because in every one of those cases, your capacity to love, to care, to be selfless, to care for others increases. So the more love you have in your life, the more estrogen you have. And that estrogen, if it's more and more, it tends to, like a seesaw, as estrogen's going up, my testosterone tends to go down unless the woman I love says things, does things to raise my testosterone. And in my father's generation, all he had to do to keep his testosterone levels up, as he loved my wife, my mother, and the children and all that. He was very there with us as much as he could be. He wasn't perfect, but he didn't get mad at us or anything like that, because he was feeling confident and successful because he had a wife who never complained. And what did she have to complain about? Because her only expectation to be fulfilled was not a perfect Valentine's Day husband, was not a great communicator, was not somebody who was helpful around the house. He wasn't. He would take care of the children. That was a big thing. But he was providing that which she needed most, a financial provider, because she couldn't make any money. Society didn't support women that much in making money, being independent. And she wanted to actually, when the kids started growing up, she had her own business and everything. But when the kids were growing up, she did what she loved to do. And my dad made enough money so she could have help. So it wasn't like all by herself. I see single women today having to try to do this by themselves. Even my daughter with her husband, as they're there, and every day I go over and hold the baby for a couple hours. I mean, they need a break. They need a nap. They need to eat. It's a family job. It's very hard to do this without a family around you. So he was a man who could have a job and provide for his family. He didn't need relationship skills. That's all he needed. That was a tradition that said, and we lived in a world in the 50s where most men, educated men at least, could provide enough money to support a woman so she did not have to earn money. Okay, that was a dynamic of the 50s. That was called in America a massive middle class. We don't have that today. It's shrinking. It's shrinking daily. And what that means, a massive middle class means the man is not able to provide enough money for the wife if she chooses to take care of her children most of the time. See, now we've got, as soon as you have a man and a woman being able to go out and make money, and sometimes half the women in the country can make more money than their husbands. That's the new statistic. So when you have two people going out to make money, so instead of them making $50,000 a year, they can make $100,000 a year. So what do couples do when they can make $100,000 a year? They say, we're going to go buy a house. And we have more money to pay for the house, so we'll offer more money. And so the real estate values go up. So suddenly now it takes two people to have a house or an apartment. It's so going the wrong direction, unfortunately. But the good news that we can be grateful for is that Winston Churchill said about Americans, the great thing about Americans is they'll tend to try everything and do the wrong thing until nothing else they can do wrong. And then they'll wake up and do the right thing, which is kind of a concept of men. Men learn by making mistakes. You almost have to suffer in order to learn your lesson if you're a guy. And women, on the other hand, have to experience suffering on an emotional level before they can let go of it. It's called growing up. Its realization is that one takeaway for women, that just a simple conversational takeaway, is whenever you're bothered by something a husband does, if you complain, you're knocking down his testosterone. That's going to less motivate him. See, testosterone is the motivation hormone. And so, well, what do? How do you motivate him? Well, my dad was always motivated because my mother needed his help, and he knew that, and she felt grateful for it. She felt appreciation for him. She depended on him. She trusted him to do his best. And because that's all she had, she didn't get to swipe 100 men. That's the best she could get. She accepted him. She accepted him as he was. Suddenly, when you can swipe to 1,000 men, well, there's this guy, he's got this, but this guy's got this. We start comparing. Comparison, as one poet said, is the thief of happiness. Too many choices. Stick with what you got, like the old song, love the one you're with, and stick with them. And that's where commitment comes in. Now, commitment doesn't happen in a man to make that. Women have a greater sense of commitment because if you're biologically designed to take care of a baby forever, okay, it doesn't stop, okay? It's just like, this is mine, I'm responsible for it, and so forth. Men don't have that automatic commitment unless they feel surges of testosterone in the presence of a woman. That means she really appreciates him. So we created a practice. And when my wife would complain, she tried to always leave complaints to a minimum. But we eventually learned how to never complain, which was learning that every complaint is really just a request. Every complaint is just a request. And learning how to make a request is something most women have never been taught. Because in my mother's generation, for example, she didn't have to ask for much, okay? Because he was already doing his job. He had his job description. But today, there's a whole new job description. And why is there? Because women are no longer in a world where men could provide what you needed. You now need a man to have a family, make a baby, and you have to go to work. And when you have to go to work, you're now going to your male side all day long. You 8 hours in the workplace, you're producing primarily male hormones, testosterone. Now you've got plenty of testosterone, but it's not the hormone that allows you to feel happy. So we have research showing that women are way more productive in terms of making money, well, than men even in many cases, but the ability to be happy diminishes over time. We see that by the rapid use of antidepressants, anxiety, sleeping medications, and so forth. Surveys have shown huge higher levels of unhappiness in women and higher levels of addiction in men. Because what happens is when a man uses porn, for example, for a brief moment, he's king. To the primitive brain, when you see, I didn't know this till I had to write a book on porn. And then the first time I went and did porn, they just said free porn. You go there and there's 64,000 women all basically ready to have sex with you in your subconscious mind. It sees that. And it surges testosterone to an unrealistic level. And what that does makes you feel like a king, but then it crashes right back down. It comes right back down. And then you resent that you're not being treated like a king. This is like really a lot of challenges that we're up against today. But the good news, I'll come back to what we're grateful for, is that women today are looking for there's a word they're using more. I want to be able to come back to my female side. I want to experience being more feminine. See, I've been waiting for that to happen. I watched it all disappear. I mean, it was a disaster. It was already starting in the 80s, in the 90s, in the 80s, we had all these romantic songs. He no longer brings me flowers and whatever. And then women got more jaded. And so romance really, they didn't expect it. And then it went into the 90s where communication was the big buzzword. And that's why my book was so famous. It was the biggest selling book of the whole decade in the world. Okay, in 50 languages, biggest selling book, because it was right in tune with women were still feeling, all right, I'll feel better if we can communicate. So I was teaching people how men and women misunderstand each other in communication. And what that means is the bottom line is one phrase, for at least for men to learn. When she's talking, don't talk. If ever a woman's talking, don't talk. And of course, she's going to try to get you to talk. Well, what are you feeling? Well, I'm thinking about what you said. Tell me more. Get her to talk more. And men have so much estrogen now that when a woman talks, he suddenly feels, well, I have something to say, and now, but that's not right. And he argues. What we have is a bunch of feminized men who argue all the time with their wives. See, women are designed to talk about problems. See, you're the problem people. Somebody's got to see the problems, and then somebody's got to solve the problems. So this is kind of a basic kind of dynamic throughout history. And let's just go into when I was living down in the Amazon with Amazon type people, and no connection to the Western world at all. Living, in a jungle where there's wild animals and so forth. Now, this didn't happen, what I'm about to say, but I could imagine it. I could imagine a mother. Most of the women were either holding babies or pregnant. They don't have birth control, which, by the way, that changed everything. That changed 10,000 years of male-female relationship changed as soon as there was birth control. Because when you're 16 years old, 18 years old, 20 years old, and you're pregnant, you need a man. You need a community. And anybody who helps you, you have so much love. You have so much gratitude, because you can't do those things for yourself. You don't have a world that supports that. So you're filled with love. You're filled with love for the child, and you're also filled with love for anybody that helps you. I've never seen my daughter, Lauren, love me so much as when I go to her house and give her a chance to take a nap. She's just so happy. Dad, thank you so much. I love you so much. It's such a relief. It's just like me when I was homeless. I need food. I don't have any money. And my friend comes and gives it to me. It's a lifelong bond. So the challenge today is that we're not in touch with our needs. See, we don't really feel our needs the way we used to. We used to really need each other. And now we can do it all ourselves. It's self-sufficiency is the enemy of intimacy. And yet self-sufficiency is the foundation for a man to actually be intimate. So men need to look to themselves and what they can do to be happier. Then they provide more for someone they care about, love relationship, children, family. You provide for them, and then you experience happier. So the secret of my marriage is that I don't look to my wife to make me happy. If I'm unhappy, it's my job. Okay. And this women who are happy need to do this as well. Your happiness is an inside job. It's up to me. It was a big breakthrough for one of my clients today, where she realized, oh my gosh, for 12 years, I thought all my problems were my husband. And now I realize this is all about me. I need to it's an inside job. He's not the problem, because she could see with new knowledge of how men think and women think, how in every argument she was part of it. There's no such thing as an argument with just one person. You see, and this is why I say men don't talk when a woman's upset. Just ask questions. Tell me more. This is a great walk away for a guy. Tell me more. What else? Help me understand that better. Now that's what he can do. And that's a communication skill, which is what many people are saying is be present. Present literally means be thinking about her and not about you. Hear what she's saying, then ask more questions about what she's saying, rather than explaining to her why she's wrong, or why she's overreacting, or what's wrong with her, or why you feel the same way about her, or how what she says makes you feel. No, don't talk about your feelings. Everybody wants men to talk about their feelings. Be a man, learn to suck it up when you need to, and then process it. We don't know how to process it. Go to your gym, go exercise, Or more enlightened ways I highly recommend is if you're upset, go meditate. But sometimes as a man, even before you can get to your meditation state, which is to forget all the problems. Now, it's so funny, therapists will say, oh, he's just in denial state. He wants to forget it. Of course you should forget it. That's the whole thing about marriage. Problems happen, let it go. That's called forgiveness. Let it go, forget it. But that's a mistake we men make, because when our wives are upset, we say, honey, just forget it. You can't do it. Women can't do it. They hold tight, because for women, the dynamic is they have a different process to let it go. And that's back to the story I was telling you about. And in the jungle with these people, just to set the tone, I had to take a prop plane to a dirt runway, a 3-hour canoe ride to get off, and then a 5-hour walk through the jungle. That's the village I went to. No radio, nothing, So I had a guide who takes me all this way, and a translator and a double translator, and living with these people for a while just to see them. Absolutely no stress. Absolutely no stress in their lives at all. There's danger, the guys go into the jungle. Women aren't allowed to go into the jungle because it's dangerous. You're like, we can't have you die. You're the mother of our children, so you've got to stay alive. We got to take care of you. And they have these little huts that they build, and the whole community builds. But anyway, just imagine one night, I saw a woman going outside to get something. And I had the idea, well, what if she went to the river with her child to get water? And she noticed that there's a tiger in the jungle. What's the first thing she needs to do? She needs to go tell somebody. This is evolution. If you've got a baby and there's a problem, you got to go tell everybody. You got to wake up the whole jungle. Hey, we got to watch out here. Bad news is coming. She has to tell somebody. And if she can tell somebody, okay, then she doesn't feel the weight of responsibility on her. So this is what's happening with the women today. They're out there on their male side solving problems. And if they can come home and tell somebody, that sense of, now I don't have to solve all those problems. I can let it go. And this was the revelation of therapy, is that women will pay a lot of money for me as a man to sit there and say, well, help me understand what you feel and tell me more and what else. And really, oh, well, then what happened? And where do you think this comes from? Just asking questions is what therapists generally do. I do a lot more, but I will say that's what they do, which actually I don't really love about some therapists, is they'll just have an unhappy woman complain, and then she leaves happier. Now, why does she leave happier? Nothing has changed in her life, but she will leave happier in most cases because somebody understands her plight. Somebody understands what she's feeling. And when somebody understands what you're feeling, if you're a woman, you make estrogen. Estrogen levels go up. See, you can't be distressed in a woman's body. You can't feel any distress if your estrogen and progesterone and testosterone are in a harmonious balance. When women have distress, you can measure it in their body. We see that anytime a woman's producing cortisol, her estrogen levels are low in the first part of her cycle after ovulation. If she's stressed, her progesterone levels are too low. And that's 90% of the time what's going on. They're complicated, but that's your general thing. So at one time of the month, she needs to be making more estrogen. At another time of the month, she needs to be making more progesterone. And then after menopause, then she needs to be doing those behaviors that would produce estrogen and progesterone. She won't make as much, but she can keep them in balance. It's the whole thing is balancing always your masculine and feminine energies. Now, in a sense, just to get a sense of estrogen is so important for women. And today, estrogen levels are off the chart too low. It's a, estrogen replacement and hormonal imbalance. And then you get PCSO for women, depression in women. There's always a hormonal aspect to it. And I read all the books on hormones, and I've read a really great book on it where you simplify it. I don't see it around here, but it's one of my books called Beyond Mars and Venus. And it's a primer on understanding your hormones, but not from the point of view of having to take hormones, which that's a choice people can make, but to understand what behaviors, what attitudes produce estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, cortisol, adrenaline. See, this is the environment triggers these things inside of us. And if you know, as a woman, if you know what will produce estrogen, then now you have a way, when I'm stressed, what do I need to do? And simply put, doing what you like as opposed to what you have to do. If I say to myself, oh, I have to do this, that's going to produce testosterone. If you say, oh, I get to do this, I like doing this, I enjoy doing this, that produces estrogen. And then higher estrogen levels get produced when you feel, not only do I like this, but I'm depending on something outside myself to make me happy. That's why, one of the reasons women overeat, we're complex systems, so there's never one reason for anything. But when you're eating food, you're making estrogen. Okay, you're depending on, oh, this tastes so good, this tastes so good. When men are depending on porn, the problem with that is they get a surge of testosterone because the message is all these monkeys want to have sex with me. So the monkey brain goes, I'm the king. But once that's spent after a few minutes, then he's left with this high estrogen state because he was dependent on that. And so he feels awful. He just feels awful. And yet it's addictive. Anything that produces that much testosterone will be addictive. The romance in a marriage, we've all had that experience, whether you got married or not, of feeling the electricity, the happiness, the joy. It's like nothing can go wrong. Everything is perfect. You're in a drug state. Okay. That's what that is. It's free hormones because it's sexual, which activates more powerful survival hormones in there, but it's sexual and it's new. Any person, any new experience. That's why, one of my clients, a woman felt so alive. She felt so good because it was Valentine's Day and yesterday, and her husband brought her on a little getaway. They went to a different place, a hotel room. It's not her own home. She doesn't feel responsible for anything. She doesn't have to wash the sheets. She'd have to clean up afterwards. All responsibilities go out of the room when you're in a hotel room. Sometimes for many couples, that's the best sex, but that's only if you need newness to stimulate hormones. The newness of a beginning of a relationship gives you all this motivation and happiness and forgiveness and acceptance and trust. It's all like a drug trip. And that's never going to last because newness will go away. Habituation occurs. Familiarity sets in, and you can do little things to help it along the way. One is the regular date night where you go and do something new and different. When new and different stimulates dopamine. Now, dopamine is our motivating brain chemical. It's also a pleasure brain chemical, but we feel alive. And part of why we feel alive is in a man's body, when his dopamine levels go up, his testosterone levels go up, super high levels. See, dopamine can also be produced from new and different. It also gets produced from danger. And really, danger is new and different. That's why new and different stimulates, because when something's new and different, you don't really know how to deal with it. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it whatever? But when familiarity sets in, the free dopamine goes away. But that free dopamine in the beginning, in the old days, in my parents' generation, they called that the honeymoon period. Everybody knew that goes away. You see, we have all these romantic expectations. So many women say to me, oh, he's not like he used to be. Well, of course, he's not like he used to be. Everything changes. But the two major changes that will happen, I will inform you now, which is men, when they get that rush of newness, they're very motivated. Okay, they're very motivated. And a woman makes the mistake of thinking, wow, he's just always motivated. No, he's not always motivated. No man is motivated unless there's a carrot. And we'll learn how to motivate a man. But women are going, what? Well, why do I have to motivate? Because you do. That's just what it is. and why do I need to give you hugs? Why do I need to tell you I love you? Why do I need to never argue, fight with you? Why do I need to not raise my voice with you? Because if you want a relationship, that's the way you do it. Okay, because it makes you feel safe. So women have this unrealistic expectation. He's going to be like that guy in the beginning, also motivated. And men have the unrealistic expectation that she's so easy to please. When you're dating her, she's happy you called. She's happy you invited her out to dinner. She's happy you, like this woman, he fixed the boards on her deck. Oh my gosh, he did this great thing. So the man gets the idea, oh my gosh, you don't have to do anything to make a woman happy. It's so easy. And then reality sets in. They get married. And now he does the big stuff. I'm going to work hard to provide for the family. I'm going to be monogamous in the relationship, you're my priority. And he thinks that's the big stuff. Well, she seemed to be happier before I gave her the big stuff. What's going on here? What's going on is that the newness is gone away. And so what happens is women get free surges of estrogen when they experience new and different. Men experience free testosterone when there's newness, but the newness goes away. If you have relationship skills to raise his testosterone, you can maintain that nice connection and that passion and making love and all that good stuff. If you have relationship skills that are directly aimed at raising a man's testosterone. Now, our culture is directly aiming men at low testosterone and high estrogen. Psychology is putting at men, you need to talk about your feelings. She needs to hear what you have to say. And she goes, yes, I need to hear what you have to say. No, you don't. You think you do. You don't. What you need, and I'm the doctor telling you what you need. When people got sick with COVID, they were vitamin D deficient. Wish somebody told them, you're like vulnerable to sickness. You need vitamin D. Somebody's got to tell you what you need if you don't know what you need. And women today are not supported in a culture that tells them what they need. Culture is telling women, you need to make more money. The reality is if you don't have a husband, you need to go out and make more money. And if a man can't make enough money and you're married, you still have to go out and make money. That's our culture. This is done to women. So you think what you need is to make more money. It will never make you happy. What will make you happy, and I have so many women say, once I made all this money, it didn't make me happy. Now, I have one client, this is an amazing story. Her brain just always negative, always, he's not this, he doesn't do this, he's weird, he's this and this and this. I kind of go, why are you married to him? It's just like, but I love him. Okay, we'll accept that. But her brain is constantly seeing what's wrong. It just doesn't stop. Now, she happens to be she has millions of dollars in her bank account, very wealthy family, lots of money. It's all in her trust fund and all that money is there. And her husband makes $500,000 a year. Now, a lot of us would be very grateful to be with somebody who makes $500,000 a year. She's not. She thinks he's somewhat of a loser. He only makes $500,000 a year. And I told her, if you didn't have all that money in your trust fund and you didn't have a good job, you'd be really happy and grateful that your husband makes $500,000 a year. She goes, it's true. And if you were that grateful, you wouldn't be pecking at him. You wouldn't see him as not enough here, not enough here. And when he's tired from going to work, thank God he goes to work. He's got a job. See, because she feels I depend on that, I need that, but she doesn't need that. Now,
Hey, John, I just wanted to hop in and say we actually had a question in the chat that we were hoping that if you can.
Yes, I'm happy to do question. I can go ramble on for hours and hours. It's so fun. I'm trying to bring gratitude into this. So let's do the question. I'll go right.
Yeah, no, it's I think I can speak for everybody here. It's really fascinating. I've written down a ton of questions already, but I'll read one from the chat for you, which is from Nazra. Hope I'm pronouncing that well. Why do men ask you for examples when you make complaints or requests and then use it against you?
Say it again.
And actually, maybe I'll if Nazra is still here.
I'm here.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, so my question, it was because I've gotten this off and on, for years. So my question, and I mainly found it with men, whether they were just guy friends or whether it's someone I was in a relationship with or not. But my question was, why do men ask you for examples when you make complaints and then use it against you? So like as an example is, sometimes I would say, in a relationship, like, hey, all right, I want to tell you something, but just can you not do that thing that sometimes like you do where you just kind of overreact to it? When have I ever overreacted? And then I'll use an example and they're like, oh, great. Now, oh, you had to bring that up. Or so I'm like, where did you want me to bring an example from? Like from the future? Because I have to go back to a past example. Otherwise, I wouldn't be asking this request in the first place.
Okay. So generally, one of the problems in relationships is we make general statements, okay, which is you're so selfish, or you never do this, or you always forget, or well, you do that thing where you always overreact. Can you just not do that thing you do? See, it's a very general thing. As a man, I want to always focus in and solve a problem. All right. You can't just make a general statement, and women do. By the way, men, I don't say something's wrong with them. It's just what women do. When they're stressed, they don't focus in. Focus in is your male side. Expand out is your female side. And when women are stressed, they will tend to expand out, which is why they can go on talk, and it seems like never ending for some men that will happen. So that's this expansiveness that women have. So you ask, why does he say, give me an example? Is well, a general statement means nothing. Give me an example, and then I can explain why you're wrong, okay, and why I'm right. That's what, that's immaturity. When you don't feel secure within yourself, you have to defend yourself. But but one of the ways to become mature, to teach men, is stop arguing. Stop arguing. Just ask questions. Because once you start arguing as a way to find resolution, then what happens is your brain, the brain is always changing. It's plastic brain. That's what we know now. If you repeat something over and over, that's where you go. It's like there's a flow of electricity in that channel, as opposed to the flow of electricity into the channel that says life is wonderful. No, it flows into life is not wonderful. And this is more so in women because they have that tendency to look at problems. Okay, they're looking at what's wrong. That the woman who is seeing the tiger, she sees the danger, and then now she's going to have to go tell somebody. But who do you tell? That's the key, Nazra. Women, see, the idea of therapy that women have found is they come in once a week and they find somebody hears them without arguing with them. That's a beautiful thing, because you get to now hear yourself talking, or you talk to another mother. I assume you're one of the young mothers. No, you're not. You're single. So as a single woman, you're going to talk to other single women. Now that feels good. The problem is, if you end your conversation just feeling good without recognizing how I contribute to the problems and a commitment to try to change, then you've just reinforced I'm a victim. The more you express the victim part of us, that's the complaining part of us, and you get attention for that, then whenever you're wanting attention, and we need attention. Attention is a biological need. When somebody gives you attention, your estrogen goes up. When you feel ignored, a major source of stress for women, estrogen goes down. For men, if they're in touch with their male side, I want to be ignored. If I'm in a bad mood, just ignore me and act like everything's fine. Don't need to talk about this. For many men, when men used to be men, it would be like, I don't want to talk, nothing, just leave me alone for a while, and you ask a guy, what's the matter? And he'll say, nothing. Even if something is the matter, many times nothing is the matter, but many times it might be he said something was annoying and irritating. What's happening inside of him is he just needs to sit with it for a while, and it will go away. It will just go away, because if he doesn't talk, okay, then what he's doing, he's not acting based upon a victim. When you take action based upon being a victim of someone, now suddenly the part of you that sees the negative becomes stronger, as opposed to, I can handle that. I'll just sit on it. And we sort of mull it over a little bit. Or we might have to just go do something and ignore it and forget it. See, forgetting it is a good thing for the male side of us. The female side of us needs to remember it. And you can actually look at our biology as such as this. Males are born and live a life with, we have this thing called the hippocampus where we remember stuff, emotional stuff. It regulates what's bothering me, what's not, what's danger. You know, I have to put my finger in fire. My brain has to remember, don't do that again, right? Well, the hippocampus is twice as big in women, twice as big. So it's like, we're going, why are you bringing all these things up? You know, so this answers one issue for you as a woman when you feel like your partner doesn't love you because he forgets to do stuff. Well, now you know, women are always saying, why did he forget? How could you forget? You forgot. Well, because my brain is smaller in that sense. Whereas women, when they're upset, men are going, why does she remember everything? Why does she bring all this stuff up? It's because you can't forget if you're in stress. As soon as you go into an adrenaline mode, and that's not even cortisol. Cortisol is big stress. Adrenaline is just danger that you're basically, you think you can handle, but you're having to turn on extra energy to handle it. That's called adrenaline. As soon as a woman goes into adrenaline, there's 8 times more blood flow in her brain to the hippocampus. And for a man, there's a decreased blood flow to the hippocampus. It's, you know, for the guys listening, that's like if you know, why these guys really love like climbing mountains and whatever. You forget all your problems when your life's in danger there. You know, they're pumping adrenaline and they're just like in ecstasy because they have no problems except what's in front of them. And they have to survive and so forth. So that's why guys drive faster more often than women. Men do dangerous things more often than women because at least it starts pumping the adrenaline, and the adrenaline pumps in a man. He forgets all of his emotional problems. It's amazing. And so, and not that that's a good solution to forget your problems. You want to be able to learn to do it without pumping adrenaline, which is, but exercise will do it. When you have adrenaline, literally by using your muscles, and men have 25% more muscle mass for this purpose and other purposes. But if you use your muscles, your adrenaline will go away. So anytime a man is even close to being in an argument, time out and go run a lap or do some push-ups or do some jumping jacks. You know, you've got to burn off the adrenaline, and it happens automatically if you just use your muscles. It's so interesting. Whereas women, on the other hand, that doesn't work. Okay, what women need to do is use their vocal cords. They need to talk, and they need to share, and they need to talk to somebody they're not trying to change. So when you say to your partner, why do you do this and this and this? You're doing that because you want to change them. And anytime you use negativity to change someone, first of all, they will resist. This is a universal law for both. It's just universal male, female. If I push you, you will push back. That's just what life is. When you resist, you get more coming back at you. This is fundamental law. So if you resist your partner, you're only going to get more of what you're resisting. So the dance is like with complaining, it's, I want you to change, but I'm using negativity. I'm using criticism or judgment or upset. One of the biggest disservices of psychology today is to say to women and to men, but primarily women pick up on it, the I feel statement. You know, Psychology 101, all of you have heard, oh, whatever you say to your partner, just say what you feel. Put an I in front of it. I feel this. Like that's suddenly going to free them from taking it personally. I feel you don't love me. Right. Oh, how you don't love me. And another thing is that we've gone way overboard on feelings. Feelings are not facts. Okay, so this is very important. A feeling that has content is not a fact. Just because I feel you don't love me doesn't mean you don't love me. It means that right now I'm feeling that you don't love me, as opposed to really what's going on. I think when you do that specific thing, you're not loving me at that time. See, that's precise. But once you get to this feeling statement, I can't disagree with you. If you say to me, I feel like you don't love me. No, I do love you. No, you can't tell me what I feel like. Nobody can change what I feel. If that's what I feel, it's a fact. It's dangerous. It's highly immature. It's like the adolescent girl. You hear almost in every sentence they say, I feel like this. I feel like this. I feel like this. And suddenly it's their reality, because we have our own reaction to reality. But just because my reaction to reality is an assumption that you don't love me, you don't care about me, I'm not important to you, I'm not good enough, I'll never succeed. These feelings are not facts. But when you stay and you express that as a feeling, I feel not good enough. And you do it over and over, particularly when you're talking to your partner, trying to change them makes that negative feeling that you're feeling more dominant in your awareness, because you're using it, becomes your tool. If you use negative emotions to win an argument, to support your partner or whatever, if you use that negative emotion, then it will grow stronger in your brain to look for negative things to get what you want. Now I'm going to take a brief moment because my dog is barking. You see, she's using a bark to get something, but it's dark outside, so I have to let her in real quick.
Oh, perfect. And then Paige, if you want to, thank you for that question so much, Nazra. And then for Paige, if you want to ask your question, and we'll do one more, and then we'll wrap it up for the night. But I know we're running a little bit over for tonight. I think
okay.
For everybody else too, it's just finding this conversation so fascinating. And I definitely have a couple books on my list that I'm gonna pick up and start reading. But
let me quickly finish that last one. We'll finish up. Okay.
Okay, yeah, and then we have one more question for from Paige after that, if you have time to answer.
Okay, another question, but there's a general principle, because my message is complain less, complain less. What builds testosterone is any message that you give to a man, verbally or through your actions or facial expressions, that says, I appreciate you, raises his testosterone. Any reaction to him that says, I accept you, no big deal. Like if ever you are going to complain, just say to him, it's not really a big deal, but would you do this? Sometimes you do this. It's not a big deal, but what I would like is this. Throw in that phrase, it's not a big deal. I'm looking over at Tammy's husband. Imagine your wife says, honey, you forgot to turn out the light, but it's not a really big deal. It just makes me happy when you do it. Just wanted to let you know. Doesn't that feel good? As opposed to, how do you keep forgetting to do this? Why did you do that? Women get all emotional with their complaints because they don't work. You know, if something doesn't work, you're going to get all emotional, thinking that being a monkey is going to make it work better. No, being a loving partner, and the way you can do it, understanding the language for men, is whenever you have a complaint, anytime of resistance, just start it out by saying, you know, it's not really a big deal, but sometimes you do this, and sometimes you don't, and I just love it when you don't. It's a simple thing. I mean, for years, Bonnie used to complain to me, you left the light on, you left the light on. Finally, she finally said, she smiled at me one day and she said, John, I noticed you left the light on. I'm sorry, she said, John, I noticed that you turned out the light the other day. And I just wanted to remind you, I love it when you do that. And it's not a big deal, but sometimes you still forget. Minimize, and men will remember. But if you make a big deal out of something, immediately our job is to say, it's not that important. It's not that important. So for the general things, you know, the general couple issues that come up, it's not a big deal. He'll be able to hear it better. Because what you want to do is give men the message they're appreciated, they're needed. That's why I started out talking about you can feel grateful for your partner. And also when you're making love, I just want to mention to the men, this is something nobody ever teaches us. Talk. I love you so much. I'm so lucky to be married to you. You're the only one for me. Today I was working so hard knowing that I'm going to take you on the vacation. I'm so looking forward to taking the kids to Disneyland. And I love working to do that. So just say those things. And now I came up with this idea and then I started doing it and it really worked because most men are quite quiet in sex. Then I have these classes, like I'll have a class next weekend, there'll be 40 people there in a weekend class. And at a certain point, I'll bring that up and I say, how many women would like that? They all go like this. And just like, yes, talk to me. So this is the time when she's vulnerable. And then I flip it around and I point out to them, it's also really valuable if you've had an understanding of this, that what are the appropriate answers for her to even say when you're making love. Do you love me? How much do you love me? Will you always love me? See, those little statements are inside of her. There's no woman that doesn't have that fear inside. Will you always love me? Am I the most important person? It's a sweetness. That's what romance is. Romance is you're my Valentine. You're my special person. You're more important than anybody else. And men think, well, I said it once. Why do I have to say it again? No, again and again. At those times when you're in touch with your more tender feelings come up. And ironically, that's what making love is a time where men's estrogen goes up. But because he's so successful in providing what she needs to experience relaxation and pleasure, his testosterone is going up at the same time. And that's where sort of the ecstatic state that is our human potential that we all glimpse, we make love. It's really what's going on is his testosterone is going to the highest level and his estrogens also going. So he's in harmony there, balancing the masculine and the feminine. So coming back to a good relationship today is where women know how to communicate in ways that raise his testosterone, and men know how to communicate in ways that raise her estrogen and her progesterone, particularly estrogen. And that's by, I mean, he can also be appreciative of her and all that, but more important is that he gives messages that I care, that you're my priority. I care and I'm committed. I care. I'm here for you. I understand. And she needs that every day. She'll express herself so she can feel, you know, what's going on inside of me. And many men will think they know what's going on inside of her. They say, well, just get to the point, or they'll finish your sentences. No, she has to say it and then experience that it didn't upset you. And then she feels understood. She has to say it, and you're basically going, I hear you, tell me more. So that's what you're doing, this communication skill of primarily the man listening, the woman feeling safer and safer to open up and share what's inside. So sharing is actually feminine, listening is masculine. See, women are so good at listening because they're so easy to go to their male side. It's easy for women to be male, hard for women to be female, because that's who you are. If somebody rejects your female side, you are rejected. If they reject your male side, that's not really me, no big deal. If I am rejected on my male side, that's huge rejection. But if I'm on my female side, well, that's not really who I am. So I don't take it so personally. So it's a part of me, but it's not the identity. And of course, we know now that this huge identity confusion is the lack of people's self-esteem that says, I know who I am, because for a male is to be able to feel successful in traditional male-like activities, and for women to feel supported in doing female-like activities. And what would those be? Doing activities where you're happy, where you're sharing feeling, where you're expressing yourself. And so it's like how to freely do that takes now new skills, because we didn't have to do it in the past. And so we have the opportunity here. I'm finishing up what I'm going to say. I'll do the question, but it's the gratitude that we have this world where we've evolved to a place where when we figure it out, we can come to higher levels of connection, where women can experience the full expression of their masculine self in harmony with their female side. And a man can be, you know, I'm 71 years old. I love my little grandchild. I love my wife. I'm a happy person. I don't get mad at people anymore, you know, and also I'm very productive. To have both those things together, that's our potential today. But we have to work with the system we're given today, how to support, how to use a man, women, to come back to your female side. Teach him how to ask questions, have timeouts if he starts to get angry. You should never be exposed to a man with anger for very long. It takes a long time to you to start to open back up again, like a flower gets closed up. So we have to change all of our communication skills. And it's all in my book, Beyond Mars and Venus. And, you know, if you're in a relationship and you haven't read Men Are From Mars, that's very foundation. But what Beyond Mars and Venus is helping women to come back, using the man in their life to come back to their female side. And for a man, knowing how to help a woman come back to her female side. That's the dance I think is very relevant today. Now, that last question, Eric.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that, and for sharing the book too, because I can see Tammy, who's also my mom, those Tammy and Tom there, going to probably write down that she's going to get it, and I'm going to get it as well. But we have one more question from Paige. If you want to unmute yourself and ask John, and then we can close it out after that.
Thank you so much. And John, thank you so much. This is such a privilege to get to talk to you today. And the last thing you said dovetails precisely into the question I wanted to ask, which is about, so I have a lot of masculine characteristics. I'm a very strong woman. And I like I don't want to say desperately, but more than anything, I want a strong man. But strong men don't tend to be attracted to me. I tend to attract weak men who admire my strength, and then I have to be that strong woman in the relationship. Like, can I be, so yeah, like strong men, like they want the nurturing and supportive and soft, and that's just not me.
And don't give it to them. So there's a dance in the dating pursuit, because you're very feminine and you have a strong male side. And that male side will be very helpful to men. You want a man, and what you're saying is I need a strong man who can be there for me. There's a transition, and I talk about that transition in my Mars Venus in the date Mars Venus on a date. I would go with, there it is, that I'm seeing the book Mars. This is called Beyond Mars and Venus with the blue stripe. You'll see a whole list of activities which will strengthen your female side. You already got your male side going, so these are things I have to use willpower to shift over and do these particular activities. One of those activities that's most powerful is journaling. Do you journal?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's your saving grace. You're coming back to that. And gratitude. I was Oprah's coach for 6 years in the 90s. And her saving grace was gratitude. She wrote gratitude every day, because gratitude is gratitude, happy, nurturing. These are your female qualities. So literally, when you're annoyed and bothered, write out those feelings, but then always come back to balancing it with, and I'm happy because, and I'm grateful because, and create things where you feel happy. And now when you're with men, you'll have a tendency, if you're on your male side, to listen to men. Do you find yourself listening to them?
Yes. And that's the other thing. I tend to attract these men that don't shut up.
That's right. But they don't shut up because you're asking questions, Paige. Never ask a man a question. Don't be a good listener. As soon as he starts to talk, immediately, if he's talking about this, he says, yeah, that reminds me of this. And then you have to double, triple, quadruple the talking. So you got to dominate the talking with these guys. If you have any empathy for them, turn it off. It's like, I'm not that interested in it. Don't, because you help them go over to their female side. And they think, and have a little compassion for them as well, because society's been telling them, women have been telling them, you need to talk about your feelings. There are all these estrogen dominant males. And so they want to talk. They get out, as opposed to wanting to listen. So it's like learning to not, in so many different ways. Like on a date, you would never do what they want to do. Okay. You would say, here's 3 things I'd like to do, and you can pick and surprise me. That's it. And it should be always what you want to do, never what they want to do. They have to sacrifice for you. They have to not talk. And that's just putting you back into the mode of being more feminine with a man. But there's a whole key about being vulnerable, which you have to learn. And that's your journal writing. And in my books, I really teach women how to communicate vulnerability. And that's a bigger topic than I can cover now. But those are some helpful points. But yeah. And here's one other thing I want to say. When they're talking, don't feel bad feeling disgusted. It's normal for women to be completely disgusted by a feminized male. It's just, can you relate to that?
Yes.
Yes. It's like, I shouldn't feel this. Yes, you should be disgusted by it. You see, we're not even allowed to say we're disgusted by aberrant behavior, but a feminized male is disgusting, particularly to a woman. It's just kind of like, you're not supposed to be that. I don't want to connect with that, because your soul is to nurture, to validate, to go in there, because every woman does want to be validated. So I don't want him to be disgusted with me if I was to be vulnerable, but you're supposed to be vulnerable and he's supposed to be respectful. So the key things that men, you need to know with women, prioritize them, take time to understand them, and respect them. And respecting them is not arguing with them. Respecting them is prioritizing their wishes and their needs, but not giving up what is true for you. But when it comes to romantic relationships, romance is the man plans the date. But what's missing today is women have to communicate what a good date would look like, because he's not a wizard. He doesn't know everything. He's not going to know everything. So you have to like, all right, here's what Valentine's Day looks like for me. Flowers, card, and here's 3 places I'd like to go. And do that a few weeks in advance, and then let me know what you want to do, what you plan to do. Then it is romantic. It's not romantic to say, okay, right now I want you to go do this. That's not romantic, but letting him know what you value, what's good for you. It's unrealistic to expect him to know, but definitely don't do what he wants to do. That's not romance at all. So those are some interesting ways of looking at everything. And Paige, thanks for your question. It's a big issue for women today. And mind the thought, it's easier if you're a woman to be on your male side. As that's why women were so relieved in the 60s. Finally, I don't have to practice being feminine, because there's qualities, there's challenges of being feminine, which is how to be accepting, how to be forgiving, how to assert yourself, how to set boundaries. And I'll say this for all the young women as well. One other thing, and then I got to go because I got dinner reservations. I'm already late. With the whole sex thing, sex right away is indulging in his need. Or already you're feminizing a man by having him not pay the price. The price is I have to wait for it. I heard another speaker, it was a Peterson talk, and he said something brilliant. And it was, we all know what a man's value is to a woman today. You know, you get the guy, he's got a job, he makes a certain amount of money, he's healthy, he's taking care of himself. That's high quality man. All right. So that's your status as a man goes up with that. Okay, I've got a job, I'm healthy, I'm wealthy, my status is very high. Okay, and we all know that's male status. What's female status? Well, we know that certain body types have certain amount of status, but not completely. You can find that all over the place. Female status is willingness to say no to sex right away. As soon as you say yes to sex right away, your status is you're just another easy.
What's right away?
I know that's always the question. The younger you are, the longer it should be. And until you're feeling, I'm not doing this for him in any way. I'm doing this for me and I enjoy it. I feel cared for. I feel supported. And there's no time limit on it. It's just the first few months. He can wait. See, it used to be men had to give up everything to get laid. Part of the weakness inside of men is indulgence. You know, in the 60s, I grew up my hair. I'm a hippie. I'm going to my female side. Now, I still remember this song, which was do what you like, and free sex. Free sex and doing what you like is the world of addiction that we live in now. It's feminized men doing what they like rather than what you have to do to get your goal. You've got a goal. Every man, you know, there's a place of desperation that you're just going to have to do what has to be done in order to get laid. That is a major thing for men. And when it's so easy, they never have to do. And now they can go online and masturbate, which is, they're even teaching in elementary school, pleasuring yourself is a good thing. Masturbation is loving yourself. It is not. It has been frowned on throughout history. It's indulging in self-indulgence and terribly hard for men. Also for women as well. It's usually there wasn't that tendency in women as much, but when you're on your male side, there's that tendency. Any type of satisfying that deep level without relationship inhibits your ability to be motivated to be in relationship. It's just like we become this crazy society. And I'm just going to throw in another thing because I love sharing this. There's this new research study I heard about, which was they took rats. Now we're not rats, so keep this in mind. But they created a city for the rats where they were completely secure and safe. And they had all their food, so they didn't have to do anything to survive. See, our whole evolution of humanity, we had to do things to survive, right? You have to do that. Well, they stopped having sex. The males became gay and the women became vain. They would have nothing to do with the males. And all they thought about was primping themselves and looking good. And the males were all having sex with each other. The women didn't want to have sex with them. And I see this, it's sort of happening to our world today. And this is what I just toss in there. If you're in a communist country where everybody's dependent on welfare, your survival is taken care of, everything becomes easy and robots are doing everything for us. Forget about romance, forget about male-female relationship. This is a disaster. We're going in the wrong direction. But the good news is that as people go in the wrong direction, we're not rats, we'll suffer. And when we suffer, we begin to self-correct. And we've just become too indulgent in trying to oh, everything's okay. Everything isn't okay. It's a disaster. There's things that we should feel ashamed of, things we should feel bad about, things that we should correct. And that's what reality is. And now we've become this society. Oh, do what you like. Do this, do whatever you want to do. And yes, and you will suffer. And as that suffering increases, people will go, I will change. And that's starting to turn. It's starting to turn. Anyway, interesting sharing with you. I hope I helped you in some way. Let me know, for those of you that are still with me, clapping or signing at me that says, I need a little something back. I always feel like you're so far away. I like to feel the connection. I'm just going to go.
Thank you so much, John. Is there a way that we can follow you and keep going on this conversation?
I'm not really a social media person, but a lot of people interview me. So you can go, there's a lot of YouTube things out there, but I would recommend, you'll have so much fun if you go to John Gray TED Talk, the one with the red shirt. Really a good talk to introduce people to these ideas. It was very funny. And then the other thing is, I have a website, marsvenus.com. And I'd recommend anybody, the most recent course my daughter and I put together is called Understanding Men for Women Only. But I suggest men to listen in. It's so amazing. It's just that I learned stuff from my daughter on this one. Understanding Men, a great course. And sometimes every few months, we're sold out this month, but we have every few months, I have a weekend course, and I invite you all to join me. It's usually in Marin County, and that would be fun to see you there as well. But anyway, what a pleasure to spend this night and to reflect on what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for the opportunity to share these ideas with you. I'm grateful to be able to teach these ideas and have you smiling and feeling touched by my ideas. Thank you so much.
Thank
I'm gonna
you.
head out, Eric, because I got to run. I'm late for dinner reservations. Again,
Thank
man,
you so much, John.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome, Aileen.
Talk to you soon. We're grateful to have you. So we look forward to talking to you again soon.
All right. Thank you so much. Carry on.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. That was really wonderful. And we apologize that we ran over, but I thought it was so potent, and his tips were just like really useful, and hopefully you enjoyed it. And we look forward to sharing our next gratitude soiree, which happens every third Wednesday of the month. And the next one will be March 15th. Again, I appreciate all of you, and have a beautiful evening. And to those that are abroad, have a good morning to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen and Eric.
Thank you, Aileen. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. And remember too, you can always shoot us an email back at that email address if you have any questions or want to know more or anything of that nature. And we look forward to seeing you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Great job, Eric.
Nice to see you, Eric.
Nice to see you too, Cynthia.
Bye, Eileen. Nice job. Love you.
Hi, Cynthia. Hi
Bye.
there. Thank you so much, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Hi, Jennifer.